Welcome to a completely different Philippines, where mountains rise in ways that seem almost impossible. Hundreds of cone-shaped hills stretch all the way to the horizon. Steaming hot water flows across layers of mineral rock deep within the forest. And sharp, jagged ridgelines disappear behind thick clouds. The landscape here is both spectacular and hard to believe. Nature does not create ordinary contours. Fire, water, and tectonic forces continuously lift, carve, and reshape the entire geology. This is a special Philippines, home to some of the most incredible mountain worlds ever seen. Where seemingly impossible formations still stand within raw and untamed land. Mayon volcano. Rising above the green plains of Albay, Mayon volcano forms a balanced cone, with both slopes descending evenly from its summit to its base. Standing 2,462 meters above sea level, Mayon is even more impressive because its slopes can reach an angle of about 50 degrees before narrowing around the crater. As clouds drift past, the summit repeatedly appears and disappears. Across its surface, dark grooves look like cuts extending from the peak toward the lower slopes. But that peaceful appearance was completely shattered during the 2023 eruption, when glowing red lava poured down the mountain sides at night. By daylight, the volcano returns to its familiar appearance. You can see it from rice fields, rows of coconut trees, residential areas, and coastal roads. No matter where you stand, this massive landform still towers above everything and dominates the entire view. The contrast between its nearly perfect shape and the energy still moving quietly inside has made Mayon one of the most impressive mountains in the Philippines. Mount Gaiting. Located on Sibuyan Island, in Romblon Province, Mount Guiting rises about 2,058 meters and stands out for its jagged chain of sawtooth peaks. The trekking route follows a narrow ridgeline, where a series of sharp points rise through the clouds. On both sides, steep slopes plunge into forest-covered valleys, while distant mountain ranges extend toward the Sibuyan coastline. Closer to the summit, the vegetation grows lower and gives way to broken brown rock. You must push through thick brush, grip the mountain walls, and climb across nearly vertical rock gaps to keep moving upward. In some sections, the trail narrows into a thin strip beside the edge of a cliff. Clouds can sweep in within minutes, erase the entire view, and then suddenly clear to reveal long, sharp ridges. Giting is not defined by symmetry. Its visual power comes from a maze of pointed peaks, deep ravines, and a climbing route where level ground is rarely found. Just one slip of a tire, or one wrong judgment, and everything could end right there. Ilawa Mainit Hot Waterfalls. Not every sign of a mountain appears at its summit. At the foot of Mount Leonard Kniazev in Davao de Oro, Ilawa Mainit suddenly opens into a hot waterfall, fed by geothermal energy around the volcano. Warm water spills across cream-yellow mineral rocks, splitting into dozens of smaller streams before covering surfaces that bulge like wax, beginning to harden. Green moss grows along each channel, forming vivid patches of color within the dense vegetation. The waterfall divides into multiple levels, winding through rock cavities before collecting in shallow pools at the bottom of the slope. When you visit, you can move close to the base of the falls, stand beneath the warm water, and feel heat continuously rising into the humid air. At Ilawa Mainit, the energy of Mount Leonard Kniazev does not erupt as lava. It reveals itself quietly through every stream of hot water flowing through the tropical forest. Mount Pulag. In the Cordillera Range of northern Luzon, Mount Pulag unfolds across rounded, grass-covered slopes, completely different from the sharp, rocky peaks commonly seen in the Philippines. Rising about 2,928 meters above sea level, it is one of the highest points in the country. As you climb higher, pine forests and shrubs gradually thin out, giving way to golden-brown grasslands near the highest area. Your trekking journey begins on roads passing through rice terraces, continues into humid forests, and then suddenly emerges onto exposed slopes. Groups of hikers follow one another along the narrow trail, appearing incredibly small within the vast landscape. As mist rises from the valleys, all lower terrain quickly disappears. The clouds pour through deep gaps, wrap around the slopes, and merge into a flat white layer extending to the horizon. Under the early sunlight, only dark landforms remain visible above the clouds. Ridges overlap in multiple layers, making the entire Cordillera Range appear to float in a white ocean. The transition from dense forest and highland grasslands to a sea of clouds covering the valleys is exactly why Mount Pulag is considered one of the most impressive mountain landscapes in the Philippines. Asik Falls. You follow a narrow trail that gradually becomes steeper through the dense forest. Bamboo branches weave together overhead, dry leaves cover the ground, and sunlight breaks through the canopy in small patches. As you move deeper, the sound of the waterfall grows louder. The path continues past a rough railing, a metal bridge that shakes slightly above a fast-moving stream, and the final set of dirt steps. When the trees ahead open up, Asik suddenly appears, covering an entire mountainside. Dozens of white ribbons pour through thick green vegetation, stretching across the cliff like a massive curtain. The water does not gather into one main stream. Instead, it seeps through moss, vines and bushes, clinging tightly to the rock face. Some branches fall in thin strands, while others crash heavily into the clear pool below. You can walk to the edge of the pool, move close to the base of the falls, and stand within the mist spraying upward from the black rocks. From here, the entire mountainside appears to have transformed into a wide wall of water rising through the forest. Chocolate hills. In the inland region of Bohol Island, thousands of conical hills successively rise from fields and low forests, creating a rolling surface that stretches in every direction. Most of the hills have fairly similar outlines, with evenly rounded slopes and a tapered peak. Viewed from above, they crowd closely together in multiple layers, broken only by narrow roads, rice paddies, and clusters of houses sitting deep below. This landscape changes distinctly with the seasons. When rain turns the grass green, the entire area takes on a lush green color extending to the horizon. Come the dry season, the vegetation turns dark brown, making the hills look like thousands of giant mounds of dirt covered in cocoa powder. From the observation deck in Carmen, you can see the layers of hills gradually getting lower in the distance. Some lie completely under the sunlight, while other clusters are swept by passing cloud shadows, constantly changing the brightness on the surface. The chocolate hills impress with their sheer number and repetition. Each individual hill is not overwhelmingly massive, but when they appear together in one frame, they turn the central part of Bohol into a terrain that seems to have no end. Canlaon Volcano. Amidst the sugarcane fields and residential areas of Negros Island, Canlaon emerges as a broad mountain mass, formed by multiple overlapping slopes instead of a single cone. The lower mountain sides are densely covered with green trees, but the higher you go, the more the color shifts to grayish-brown. Deep ravines run from the summit region down low, dividing the surface into many rugged bands and exposing bare patches of rock among the vegetation. From the roads around the base of the mountain, the peak is often hidden by clouds. Sometimes, only a dark ridgeline protrudes. A few minutes later, the wind pushes the clouds aside, opening up the crater along with heavily carved, steep walls. During periods of activity, steam and ash can rise straight up from the summit, forming a prominent gray column against the sky. That sight instantly gives the entire still mountain mass below a completely different state. Mount Amuyao. The road up Mount Amuyao begins amidst the rice terraces of Mountain Province, where the mountainsides have been divided into hundreds of curves hugging the valley. From the residential area below, the path quickly enters the forest. Damp stone steps, tree roots exposed on the ground, and continuously long, steep sections force you to climb high through multiple dense layers of vegetation. As the elevation increases, large tree trunks are gradually replaced by low bushes and grassy clearings. Looking back, the rice terraces are reduced to thin lines lying deep down in the valley, while the houses almost disappear amidst the green. Near the summit, the trail runs across narrow ridges that are frequently covered in mist. Clouds spill across the path, cling to the trees, and then open up in short intervals, revealing the continuous Cordillera ranges in the distance. When you stand on the highest part, Mount Amuyao reveals an entire system of valleys, rice terraces, and mountain ridges arranged in multiple tiers. Showing just how worthwhile the journey you just took truly is. Mount Pinatubo. A trail covered in grey ash leads deep into the mountainous region around Pinatubo. On both sides are towering cliffs with deeply grooved surfaces. While shallow streams weave through the wide valley floor that is almost devoid of large trees. Off-road vehicles can only navigate a portion of the route. After that, you continue along the stream bed, stepping over rubble and light-colored patches of dirt sitting between increasingly narrowing cliff walls. Everything ahead at this point is still just a dry, grey, and rugged terrain. But upon cresting the final slope, the ground suddenly opens up, revealing a blue lake nestled entirely within a giant volcanic crater. The walls surrounding the lake change from light grey to reddish-brown, carved by countless deep crevices running down to the water's edge. Depending on the light, the lake's surface can shift from turquoise to dark blue, creating a strong contrast with the bare rock layer above. Pinatubo concludes a journey full of dust, shallow streams, and rubble with a completely contrasting scene. Behind the dry, hard crater rim is a calm water surface, isolated between massive terrain walls. Tal volcano. From the observation points on the Tagaytay slopes, Tal appears in the middle of a vast lake where the volcano island lies low and stretches along the horizon instead of rising into a distinct, tall peak. The island's slopes are a greenish-brown color, divided into multiple ridges and small craters. All around, the water surface reflects the clouds in the sky, while boats and lakeside communities only appear as very tiny details in the panorama. The layout of Tal becomes special due to multiple layers of terrain nested within each other. A large lake surrounds the volcano island. While inside the island, there is a crater area and a main lake. It is this structure that makes the landscape change completely between the viewing angle from Tagaytay and aerial footage. When steam rises from the central area, white streaks drift across the dark surface and then gradually spread out toward the lake. From a distance, that movement might look small, but it serves as a reminder that the low land mass in the middle of the water is still an active volcanic system. Accessing Tal Volcano Island is currently still subject to the safety restrictions of FIVOLCS. Mount Apo. On Mindanao Island, Mount Apo rises behind the fields, tropical forests, and residential areas of Davao, forming a broad mountain mass with many interconnected high and low peaks. Standing at about 2,954 meters tall, this is the highest mountain in the Philippines. However, the summit often does not appear clearly as a single cone, but is divided into rocky ridges, slopes, and open patches of land nestled among the clouds. On the trekking trail, the landscape changes constantly. The lower paths cut through dense forests, continue through damp, mossy areas before opening up onto grey rocky plains near the highest section. In some spots, steam escapes from the ground, obscuring the rocks and low bushes. When the sky is clear, you can see ridges stretching out in many directions, while the Mindanao Plains recede deep down below. The group of people moving across the wide-open terrain is reduced to tiny dots against the vast, rocky background. Mount Apo creates a sense of massive scale through its transition across multiple layers of landscape, from the tropical rainforest to the cloud-covered high rocky zones. Every step shows that this mountain occupies a much larger space than the peak that can be seen from afar. Blue soil hills. After the pine needle-covered roads of Sagada, a patch of grayish-blue dirt suddenly appears in the middle of the forest, completely isolated from the brown soil and surrounding grassy carpet. The surface of the blue soil hills is divided into many low mounds, small grooves, and smooth dirt slopes. Under harsh lighting, the blue color can be quite pale. When the ground is damp, the blue hue becomes more pronounced, creating the feeling that a cold layer of minerals has coated the entire area. Tall pine trees grow right up to the edge of the clearing, forming a dark-colored wall in the background. It is exactly this contrast between the brown trunks, the dark green canopy, and the light blue ground that makes the terrain pop out even in low-angle shots. You can walk along the narrow ridges, step down into the depressions, and then look back up at the consecutive dirt mounds arranged in multiple tiers. The space here is not as vast as a mountain range, but every curve and streak of color shows up very clearly in the frame. The blue soil hills introduce a completely different color palette to the mountainous region of Sagada. In the middle of the familiar pine forest, the ground suddenly takes on a bizarre blue tint. Making the landscape look like a piece of terrain that has been detached from the rest of Luzon. Mount Balingkilat. On the western side of Luzon Island, Mount Balingkilat rises amidst the Zambales mountain range, with wide grassy slopes cascading gradually toward the plains and the sea surface. The route up the mountain has almost no shade from trees. You have to move across steep slopes covered in tall grass, where the trail appears as a thin dirt line zigzagging between continuous ridges. The higher you climb, the more the view behind you opens up. Dark valleys lie interspersed among the mountain ranges, while to the west, the coastline and the blue water surface gradually appear behind the lower ridges. The Zambales Range runs along the west of Luzon and separates the Central Plains from the South China Sea. The wind blows constantly through the open spaces, pressing the layer of grass to lean in the same direction. On the narrow ridge sections, climbers have almost no obstacles ahead, leaving only the trail, the slope, and the stretching horizon. The strongest point of Balingkilat comes out when the camera pans from the mountainside to the ocean side. In just a single frame, the terrain shifts from dry, grassy slopes down into deep valleys and then concludes at the wide stretch of water off the coast of Zambales. Hanging coffins of Sagada. On a limestone cliff in the middle of Echo Valley, a series of wooden coffins are fastened directly into the nearly vertical surface, sitting high above the tree-filled valley. To access this area, you hike through pine forests, rocky steps, and narrow trails running down to the valley floor. Through the gaps between the tree trunks, clusters of coffins begin to appear on the grey cliff. Some are placed on support beams protruding from the rock face. Others lie deep in crevices or are stacked near the mouths of small caves. Looking up from below, they just look like narrow wooden boxes clinging to the cliffside. But the silhouette of a person standing nearby instantly reveals the sheer height of the burial site. This is a part of the burial tradition of the indigenous community in the Cordillera region, where coffins can be hung on cliffs or placed inside rock caves. Today, the coffin cluster at Echo Valley has become one of the most recognizable images of Sagada. In this place, the cliff itself becomes the main structure of the entire scene. Rock, forest, and wooden coffins all sit at multiple different elevations, creating an image that is almost impossible to encounter in any other mountain range in the Philippines. Mount Napulac. A massive solitary boulder sits on the peak of Mount Napulac, rising out of the forest and recognizable from many spots along the trekking route. The journey starts in the countryside of Iloilo, where small roads run through fields, bushes, and low hillsides. The deeper you go, the steeper the path gets, continuously cutting through dense forest and damp dirt sections, broken up by tree roots. Near the summit area, the tree canopy begins to thin out. Clearings open up amidst the tall grass, allowing you to see successive green mountain ranges along with the sprawling plains in the distance. After the final climb, the boulder on the peak emerges with its slanted faces and massive cracks. Climbers can stand right at the base of the rock or appear on its higher sections, providing a clear scale for its size amidst the empty space. Napulac does not leave its mark with a complex chain of peaks. The entire journey seems to lead to one single point. The colossal rock sitting on the summit, where the forest ends and the view unexpectedly expands in all directions. Mount Nangtud. The deepest part of the Central Panay mountain range is covered by successive layers of forest, almost completely hiding Mount Nangtud from the residential areas and outer plains. Standing at about 2,074 meters tall, this is one of the highest peaks on Panay Island. The route up the mountains stretches across numerous streams, steep slopes, and humid forests where tree roots crawl across the ground and trunks are completely covered in green moss. After the thick forest sections, the terrain gradually opens up onto a narrow mountain ridge. The path is reduced to a thin strip of grass, running between two steep slopes, constantly rising and falling along the small peaks ahead. On cloudy days, the lower portion of the mountain range vanishes underneath a thick white blanket. Only the dark ridges stand out, while climbers move in a single file line along the ridge, looking incredibly small amidst the surrounding void. Nangtud only reveals its full scale after a long journey through the desolate mountainous region. From the grass-covered summit, the layers of forest, valleys, and sea of clouds expand in many directions, leaving almost no trace of the world below. Mount Batulao, the ridges of Mount Batulao constantly split apart and converge, creating a jagged chain of peaks sitting amongst the vast grassy slopes in southwestern Luzon. Instead of cutting through dense forest, the majority of the trekking route clings directly to the open terrain. The brown trail winds around the slopes, goes over low mounds, and then continues up towards the higher ridge section. During the rainy season, green grass covers almost the entire surface. When it transitions into the dry season, the mountainsides turn golden brown, making the deep crevices and dark rocky outcrops much more visible under the sunlight. Some sections of the trail narrow right against the steep drop, forcing climbers to hold onto ropes or step across rugged rock steps. Viewed from a drone, the group of people appears as a thin line running along the chain of mountain ridges, carved up by many small valleys. Batulao is only about 811 meters high, but its sawtooth terrain makes it look much more complex than its actual elevation. From each small peak, the next route appears on another ridge, drawing the journey deeper into a maze of grassy slopes. Mount Makiling. From the plains around Laguna, Mount Makiling appears as a long mountain range, covered entirely in green trees, with a rolling silhouette rather than tapering into a single peak. Inside that layer of trees is a trail system submerged in shade. Massive tree trunks grow close together. Vines hang down from the high canopy, while rotting leaves and moss completely cover the damp dirt steps underfoot. The deeper you go, the more the light is split into tiny streaks, piercing through the forest canopy. Mist clings around the tree trunks, water flows through rock crevices, and many sections of the path turn into a layer of slippery mud amidst crisscrossing tree roots. Mount Makiling is about 1,090 meters tall and belongs to the Laguna volcanic field. Even though no eruptions have been recorded in history, signs of geothermal activity still appear around the area through hot springs and hot mud pools. The mountain peak is not the most visually dominating part of Makiling. The signature feeling happens right beneath the forest canopy, where the humidity, vegetation, and fog are so thick that the entire mountain feels as if it is wrapped in a layer of continuously moving, living organisms. Unlivable Hills. The hills around Unlivable do not rise into separate, distinct peaks. They spread out into soft curves, interspersed among pastures, cultivated fields, and the stretching valleys of Bukidnon. From above, the ground is divided into many different patches of color. Green fields sit next to golden grass zones. Rows of trees run along the agricultural boundaries, while dirt roads wind along the natural incline of the hillsides. Some slopes are heavily covered by evenly rowed crops. Other areas still retain wide grassy surfaces, where herds of livestock, barns, or vehicles appear incredibly small amidst the open space. When cloud shadows glide across, each part of the terrain successively darkens and then brightens. The front layers of hills clearly show their curves, while the further mountain ranges gradually shift to a grayish blue and blend into the horizon. Unlivable sits at an elevation of about 622 meters and is surrounded by hilly terrain, plains, valleys, and deep ravines. It is exactly this continuous succession that makes the area look like the ground is rolling into waves right in the center of Bukidnon. Stobosa Hill. Hundreds of rooftops cling tightly to a mountainside in La Trinidad, stacked from the valley floor up near the peak like a giant urban wall. Every facade is covered in patches of yellow, blue, red, and purple. When observed from the opposite side, the boundaries between individual houses gradually disappear, revealing large strips of color pieced together into the shape of sunflowers and abstract patterns. The closer you look, the more complex the structure of the hillside becomes. Concrete staircases run between the houses, power lines weave across corrugated tin roofs, and narrow walkways constantly change direction following the steep slope. The artwork is named Colors of Stobosa, combining the names of 3 residential areas, Stonehill, Botutw, and Sadjap. Roughly 150 to 200 houses were used to create a community masterpiece spanning about 18,000 square meters. Stobosa turns the building density itself into a visual focal point. The houses that were once crowded onto the mountainside now connect into a single image, massive enough to be easily recognized right from the road down in the valley. From volcanic peaks that are still silently shifting, and ridges engulfed in clouds, to hillsides bearing incredible shapes and colors, the Philippines shows just how diverse its landscape truly is. Which of the locations we just went through impressed you the most? And if you could choose one place to explore with your own eyes, where would you go? Share your answers down in the comments section. Do not forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to accompany us on future journeys. See you next time.